Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS. We are into NFL Week 11 already. We got Thursday Night Football, NFC East battle here. Washington on the road at Philly. Let's go.
Welcome to the SWAS. The SWAS. SWAS. Hey, get the sauce.
All right, like I said, we got the Commanders on the road in Philadelphia here. Eagles are laying 3.5 points at home. Total sitting at 48.5 across the board. Let's take a quick look at the pie charts. And according to this data, actions coming in on the Philadelphia side, over 55% of the tickets, over 60% of the money coming in on the Eagles. That being said, take this data with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with a couple trends. Washington actually 3-1-2 against the number in their last 6 matchups against Philadelphia, but they've been much more successful against the Eagles at home in Washington. On the road in Philadelphia, it hasn't quite been the same. The Eagles are actually 4-1-1 against the number in their last 6 matchups against Washington in Philly. So let's match these two teams up on the field. We'll start with the Eagles offense. They're actually first in rushing frequency. This is an offense that wants to run the ball. Jaylen Herz has played pretty well the last few weeks, but this is still an offense that wants to run the ball first. And on paper, they should not have problems running the ball against this Washington defense. Philadelphia 6th in yards per carry, 8th in success rate per rush, 5th in EPA, 7th in DVOA on the ground. Washington's defense 26th in yards per carry allowed, 25th in success rate per rush, 27th in EPA, and 24th in DVOA. That's what we call a mismatch. Philadelphia should definitely be able to run the ball on the Commanders in this game. No question, they should have the huge edge in terms of the offensive line against Washington's defensive front. Philadelphia 19th in adjusted line yards, 10th in run blocking grade, 3rd in yards before contact. Washington's defensive front 29th, 22nd, 30th. So the Eagles should have no problem creating push here. Also, Mailata is back, the left tackle who's missed, I think he's missed 3 games, 2 or 3 games. He is back, activated for this game. So the Eagles offense is officially at full strength. At this point in the NFL season, that's huge. Most teams, pretty much every team, is dealing with injuries at this point of the season. The Eagles offense at full strength, which is huge. The Washington Commanders defense is not. Jonathan Allen is still out. He's been out since the Baltimore game, so I guess that was about a month ago. He's probably missed, if I had to guess, 4 games, somewhere in there. And Marshawn Lattimore is not going to make his debut with the team. So, I mean, not that the Commanders' defense is decimated with injuries or anything, but the Eagles' offense at full strength. Washington's defense is not. So, on paper, in my opinion, there's nothing that shows Washington's going to be able to stop the run game here. Philadelphia should have no problem running the ball on Washington. But what about the matchup for Jaylen Herz? Well, Washington is a pretty balanced defense. They do run a decent amount of man coverage. 8th in man coverage frequency, 8th in cover 1, 8th in cover 2. Jaylen Herz against man coverage, actually better. 4th in yards per attempt, 4th in passer rating, 5th in big time throw rate. So he's actually better against man coverage than he is against zone. How about his matchup against cover 1 and cover 2? Well, if you combine them together, amongst 36 qualified quarterbacks, he's 5th in completion percentage, 6th in yards per attempt, 4th in passer rating. So definitely looking like a pretty good matchup for Jaylen Herz so far. Also, this Washington defense, it looked like they were getting it together in week 7 and 8 against the Panthers. Well, but the other game was against the Bears. In those 2 games, they allowed just 110 passing yards per game, 5.2 yards per attempt. And we were kind of like, okay, maybe this Washington defense is pretty good. But in the last 2 weeks, they've kind of come crashing back down to earth. Not giving up a ton of yards, 184.5 yards per game in their last 2 against the Giants and Steelers, 6.7 yards per attempt. Look at the passer rating, 105.1 average passer rating in those 2 games. Success rate per dropback, 53.3%. So the Giants and Steelers were able to complete passes on this Washington defense pretty easily. And like I said, Jaylen Herz seems to just be getting it going. He seems to be getting more and more comfortable as the season progresses. In the Eagles' last 5 games, they're averaging 210.2 yards per game. So not a ton of passing yards. Like I said, they want to run the ball first. But look at the efficiency numbers. 68.1% success rate per dropback is crazy. Those are Madden numbers. 9.9 yards per attempt. Average passer rating of 122.4. Cleveland and the Giants are in there too. That's 2 really good pass rushes. That being said, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Dallas, they have seen some bad defenses. But honestly, Washington might be a bad defense also. So I don't expect Hertz's reign of terror to end here against the Commanders. In that same span, the last 5 games, Jaylen Herz is 2nd in yards per attempt, 3rd in PFF pass grade, 2nd in big time throw rate, 2nd in passer rating. So since week 6, Jaylen Herz has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And like I said, I don't expect that to stop. Also, another thing we should point out about the Commanders defense is they've really struggled when they've seen dangerous offenses. They played 4 games this year against top 10 offenses in EPA per play, which definitely describes Philadelphia. In those 4 games against the Bucks, Ravens, Bengals, Cardinals, they're allowing 28.5 points per game, 7.3 yards per play, 56.2% success rate. So this Commanders defense, when they've seen good offenses, has looked really bad. In their other games, when they've seen lesser offenses, we've seen the defense look somewhat formidable, but when they've seen good offenses, it's been pretty bad for this Washington defense. So should be a good matchup for Philadelphia offensively. That being said, if you are looking to bet Washington here, I do have a couple angles for you. Number one, the Commanders do blitz. They're 11th in blitz rate. Not a ton, but an above average blitz rate. Jaylen Herz, much better when not blitzed. Completion percentage, yards per attempt, big time throw rate, passer rating. When not blitzed, second, first, sixth, third. When blitzed, 14th, 21st, 10th, and 18th. So, all right, Commanders might be blitzing in this game. That could throw Jaylen Herz off a bit. Also, this Commanders pass rush might be better than we think. On the season, their pressure rate is 31.3%. That's 19th best in the NFL. But since week 5, it's up over 35%, which is 7th in the NFL. So Washington might have a sneaky good pass rush, and we're just now learning. The reason I'm bringing this up is Jaylen Herz has been much, much better when given a clean pocket. He's actually been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when given a clean pocket, minus the turnover-worthy play rate. 2nd in yards per attempt, 4th in passer rating, 26th in turnover-worthy play rate. Look at his numbers when pressured. Definitely a dip in production. So if you like the Commanders here, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the blitz rate, you're looking at the rising pressure numbers, and you're looking at Jaylen Herz getting rattled under pressure. Personally, I don't think that's enough. I think there's way more evidence pointing towards the Eagles putting up points in this game rather than Washington making stops. So I think the Eagles are going to be able to move the ball and score in this game. But what about on the other side of the ball? Let's take a look at the matchup for the Washington offense. And look at this matchup on paper. This is a battle right here. Commanders 4th in yards per play, 3rd in success rate, 2nd in EPA, 2nd in DVOA. Eagles defense, 2nd, 6th, 7th. I mean, these are 2 top 5, maybe even top 3 units battling it here. The first question we want to ask is Washington able to run the ball in this game? Commanders 6th in yards per carry, 3rd in success rate, 1st in EPA, 8th in DVOA on the ground. Eagles defense 13th, 7th, 11th. The matchup on the line of scrimmage is pretty even here. Washington 12th in adjusted line yards, 26th in run blocking grade, 10th in yards before contact. Eagles defense 21st, 13th, 24th. So really no edge there. I am a little concerned right here though. Both of Washington's offensive tackles are listed as questionable in this game. Now, they both have been participating in light practice, so I'm assuming both of these guys are good to go. They also got Brian Robinson Jr. back. He didn't play in the Steelers game. So I think the Commanders offense is going to be at full strength here, but having both offensive tackles listed as questionable, definitely not something you like to see. Now, if you like Washington in this game, in my opinion, this is your number one angle right here. This is a strong one. So the Eagles have been racking up some recent defensive numbers, right? The defense looks great. Everyone's talking about how the Eagles defense is coming around, right? Well, look at their recent offensive competition. Here are the rushing DVOA numbers of the Eagles' recent opponents. Week 6, Cleveland, 30th. Week 7, Giants, 13th. Week 8, Bengals, 29th. Week 9, Jags, 15th. Week 10, Cowboys, 28th. It's been a while since the Eagles have seen a decent rushing attack. And then let's look at the passing numbers. Browns, 32nd. Giants, 24th. Bengals, that's a respectable one. Cincinnati. Jags, 18th. Cowboys, 25th. And Dak Prescott didn't even play. It was Cooper Rush. So we can talk about how the Philadelphia defense is getting hot. Eagles are putting up some great numbers defensively. But, I mean, we do have to mention it's been a while since the Eagles have seen some real offensive competition. The Bengals in week 8, but that's a pretty one-dimensional offense. They can't run the ball, which was the weakness of the Eagles defense early on this season. Been a while since the Eagles have seen a rushing attack. And look at these numbers right here. Here are the Eagles numbers against the run, against top 10 rushing attacks. They've played 3 games: Green Bay, Atlanta, Tampa Bay. In those 3 games, they're allowing 143 rushing yards per game, 6 yards per carry, 46% success rate per rush. In their other 6 games against teams not in the top 10 of rushing DVOA, 80.5 rushing yards allowed per game, 3.7 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 30%. So they racked up these elite defensive numbers against the run, against teams not in the top 10 of rushing DVOA. Meanwhile, when they've actually seen good rushing attacks, they got run all over. So that's concerning. If you like Philadelphia, you do not like the look of that, because we know this Commanders offense can most definitely run it. Now, I will add, Washington runs a lot of gap concept blocking schemes, 6th most in the NFL. That actually plays to the strength of the Eagles defense. They're 8th in yards per carry, 12th in success rate per rush against gap concept blocking schemes. They've been much, much worse against zone blocking schemes. So maybe there's something. If you like this Eagles defense and you think they're going to give Washington problems, you can look at that. But as a whole, I do think Washington's going to be able to run the ball in this game. But what about Jayden Daniels and the Commanders' passing attack? Well, first off, I want to say I don't really care too much about the Steelers game. I know it wasn't his best game throwing the ball. He still had a 50% success rate per dropback, 202 yards through the air, just 5.9 yards per pass attempt, 68.5 passer rating. Not his best. In fact, probably one of his worst games all year, maybe since week 1. But we've got a 9-game sample size of Daniels being an extremely efficient thrower. I mean, 238.7 yards per game, 8.5 yards per attempt, 107.7 passer rating, success rate per dropback almost up at 70%. So I'm not letting one game against a really good pass rush shake my confidence in Jayden Daniels throwing the ball. That being said, nobody is throwing the ball in this Eagles defense. I mean, in the last 5 games, they're allowing under 150 passing yards per game, just 5 yards per pass attempt, 66.7 average passer rating, success rate per dropback under 39%. Nobody's been throwing the ball in Philly. And yeah, there's games against Cleveland, the Giants, Dallas with Cooper Rush, but there's also Cincinnati and Jacksonville in there, Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. We know quarterbacks certainly capable of throwing the ball. This Philadelphia pass defense is red hot. So do we think they stay red hot against Jayden Daniels? Well, what the Eagles do a lot of is sit back in coverage. 61.8% of their defensive snaps in coverage are in cover 3, 4, or 6. 32.3% in cover 4 or 6. That 32.3% is 3rd most in the NFL. So basically what this means is the Eagles sit back in coverage a lot. They will give you underneath throws. They do not let you get big plays down the field. Why is that important? Well, as good as Jayden Daniels has been, actually not the best numbers when it comes to throwing the short pass. I mean, 69 DVOA, 100.5 passer rating, which isn't good. When you look at passer rating specifically for short passes, normally they're pretty high because it's a high completion percentage, just 100.5. His numbers are dramatically better throwing the intermediate pass or the deep pass, which plays directly into the strength of this Eagles defense. We just talked about how this Eagles defense sits back in coverage. They give you the short passes. Jayden Daniels, not the most efficient short passer. So I actually expect this Eagles hot streak against the pass to continue. I think it's going to be a rough matchup for Jayden Daniels on the road here. Do I think Washington can run the ball? Yeah. I'm not expecting the Eagles to shut them out, but I like the matchup for the Eagles offense. I think they're going to score some points in this game, which means I am on Philly here. Really wish I grabbed the 3. There's nothing but 3.5s right now, but one sec. Let's look up I want to see the Eagles team total. That might be worth a look. So let me pull it up 1 second. I should have had this up already. 1 sec. All right, here it is. 26.5. You can get a minus 108. I think that's my favorite bet for this game. Eagles team total over 26.5. I also would lean Eagles minus 3.5, but I think I'll probably just bet the team total over. I'll let you know what I end up doing on the live show. At this moment, I haven't placed the bet yet, but pretty sure it's going to be Eagles team total over 26.5 or Eagles minus 3.5. Live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go through this game, college football. NBA, there's only one game. If you're able to make it, would love to see you in the comments. If you want to see all the bets I have open for this weekend, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on open bets. You'll see all mine as well as everyone else on the staff here. Let's have ourselves a nice week 11. Week 10 was not kind to me, so let's get back on track. Actually, you know what? Week 10 wasn't good, but I finished on a high note. I got the Texans plus 3.5 on Sunday Night Football, and then I got the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. So it ended on a good note. So we're coming into this week with maybe a little bit of momentum. Please remember to bet responsibly. Hit me up in the Discord if you need anything.